Well, hello everyone. It's Leslie Flowers, Trailblazer for Women in Business, and welcome to Awakening Your Infinite Potential Telesummit. I am really excited about today's speaker, Donna Brown. She is a super scaling growth strategist. She's also a visionary and an international speaker with 30 years experience as a consultant in a number of areas: fashion, interior design, lifestyle. She has a diverse background, including coaching and mentoring. And with each of her clients, she provides long-term and profound visions and helps you determine the vision of what you can do to truly fulfill your mission and purpose in the world. And she'll help you create strategies and tactics to execute that vision. She had a spiritual journey in Buddhism and Buddhist studies, and her experience with corporate-based mindfulness both have led her to understand that her biggest successes in business stem from the combination of spiritual practices, experience, and strategy. Now, Donna says that it's this unique combination of business and awareness that actually represents the trend and shift for businesses toward the future, no matter the size of the business. Shifting mindset or paradigms or the way we think or believe about business is to perceive it in a different form. And she will help you unleash your power as an entrepreneur. Or if you're in corporate, you can do that too by teaching you the foundations that will help you create unique and profitable businesses that have far-reaching global effect. So without further ado, here's Donna Brown. And Donna, I'm so excited that you're here today. I can't wait to hear about your awakening of your infinite potential. So please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And when I saw the title of this telesummit, Awakening Your Infinite Potential, I was just so excited, really, because it's just like, yes, that's exactly what I talk about and exactly what we're here to do as human beings, aren't we, really? And I know that there are so many other incredible speakers, and I want to thank all those who are listening, and I hope you get benefit for eons and eons from everybody. And my experience has been a little bit unusual, I think. Anyways, I went from, there weren't jobs, I was a consultant. So I went from project to project in very, very diverse fields. And they always left me very embarrassed. Like, I had imposter syndrome before I even knew it was a thing. Like, this was 35 years ago. Maybe it didn't even have a name then, I'm not sure. But what would happen is, because I would sort of fall into these incredible opportunities basically without training, fashion designer, garden designer, I trained a little bit more for that, television, publishing, all food, all kinds of different things. What would happen is I would have great difficulty. People would say, what do you do? And I really would almost say, oh, I don't do much, just to not have to say what it was I was doing at the time, because I didn't feel that I had the right to say it, or that I would necessarily do it for my entire life. So I was really, really stuck about this. And so I think this is fairly typical of a lot of people. We've been led to believe that there's this one thing with capital letters that once we find it, all of a sudden everything will click into place, we'll have no doubts, things will be hunky-dory, and we will never question ourselves again, and we will just go zipping along forever and ever off into the sunset. And so I fell for that hook, line, and sinker, and was just really, really conflicted about this and really struggling with this. This went on for a long time because I kept changing, right? Beautiful jobs, exciting, creative, and fabulous clients, but it just left me very disoriented. And so I have these two paths that started to merge together. So on the one hand, I had my business, crises. Well, they weren't really crises, but this sort of really just this real discomfort as to who I was and what I was here to do. Like, I couldn't understand this thing called purpose. And then on the other hand, I had a very, very challenging personal situation, a very challenging home life that led me to question an awful, awful lot and think that there had to be something more than this, because the this was not so great. So these two worlds, let's say that, because we're normally, especially in the West, we're really taught to think of business as one thing, and your spiritual development and personal development is something separate, and ne'er the two should meet. So I'm showing my age because I said this was like 30 years ago, 35 years ago. Well, this was maybe about 25 years ago when this happened. I just really, both things came crashing down, and I just really didn't know where to turn. And at the time I had the great good fortune to, first of all, listen to a little voice that I had inside me saying, you need to start meditating. You need to start meditating. You need to start meditating. It's like, okay. So I started. So that was, on the one hand, I started doing that. On the other hand, I met a wonderful, wonderful person who does channel. And the message, when I did the whole tears, and what am I here for? What's my purpose? Like literally bawling my eyes out in, the ugly cry. The answer was beautiful and was so freeing that it's something that I tell everybody every chance I get. And the answer was this, that life is not a highway. You don't get on in the at the on ramp and drive straight till you hit the off ramp. And it's like, and when they said it like that, it was just like, oh, this one thing doesn't sound so great. Who wants to do that? Right? And then the invitation was to think of life as a walk in the garden. And if you're in a beautiful garden or a beautiful park, you'll see the flower beds, and you'll go and see some flowers that sort of attract your attention, and you'll maybe go and see them and look at how beautiful they are, smell them, look at the bees or the butterflies or whatever insects are sort of flying around. And then maybe you'll be attracted to something else. And as you meander through this garden, maybe you'll stop at a fountain and listen to the sound of water. And then maybe because it's a sunny day and you've been walking around for a while, you see some shade and you see a beautiful stand of oak trees and a bench and decide to go and sit down there. And each of these moments is perfect unto itself and doesn't need the moment before it and doesn't necessarily need the moment after it. It's just really there to be explored. If you think of gardens, they're really just there for us to explore. They just offer themselves, right? And when I heard this for me was very freeing. I wasn't looking for this magic container or label for myself that would solve, all my embarrassment about what I do. I still struggle with those things, by the way. I'm feeling better about it now, so I'm pretty comfortable about what I say about myself now. But those things I felt very restrictive. And at the same time, the business thing, that kind of let me look past the labels. And I have a little story about that too, because I have a thing about elevator pitches, as in I don't really like them. Because my feeling is that, or my understanding, my personal understanding, of course, I don't know how everybody else feels about them. I know a lot of people struggle with them, is that, first of all, we had labels, right? I'm a manager of this, I'm a coach, I'm a whatever it is. And then because that felt not enough to us, we created the elevator pitch. So it's really just more words to still not be satisfied with the definition of who we've decided who we are. So I feel that they're kind of a bomb in many ways, right? You introduced me, Leslie, so nicely, but it was definitely not one sentence, right? So, and I think that we all deserve a little more space than that, and a little more, a little more time. And I understand the principle behind the elevator pitch, and I kind of tease people about it, but it's really not confusing yourself with these labels for who you are. So I've been a fashion designer, I've been a garden designer, I've been a book author, I've been a television presenter, personality, but that doesn't mean that that's all that I am. It's how I choose. I've come to see these as channels for me to relate to the world, what I do best. And so it all comes back to me. And that's kind of where the spiritual side of things come in. So for me to find this so-called purpose, or which quite often we think of as a business thing, the more we have an understanding of ourselves and who we are and how we enjoy relating to the world, how we enjoy moving and being. And by that, I mean, I am intrinsically a mentor and a visionary. It's very easy for me and very natural for me to tune into a person or to a company and to see kind of their piece of the puzzle in the way they're supposed to show up in their context, global or local, whichever it is. I almost said something in Italian, because I'm based in Italy, so I almost started speaking in Italian. And and on the other hand, my work experience allows me to give them very specific strategies and tactics to move forward and to bring themselves into being more of themselves. And as I was saying at the beginning about scaling, and I think I got off track there, that super scaling, right, is this amplification of who you are, this allowing yourself to flourish and using business as a channel for your flourishing, for you being more of you, being youer than you, as Dr. Seuss would say, right? And that's such a beautiful and powerful thing. And what I've found is that with myself and with my clients, what happens is as soon as they can see that, all of a sudden their business explodes. So from a client, let's say, who had a blog that was doing very well, like they were earning multiple six figures with this blog, but she was kind of spinning a reel. She couldn't do more than she was doing and didn't see her way forward. And because of her family needs, it wasn't enough, even though it was very generous income. By helping her understand that what she was really offering was her desire to, what she was really bringing to the world was her desire to bring joy to other people and the enjoyment of the small things, chickens, food, organically made things, handmade, beautiful, like, soaps or whatever, that it was this enjoyment and this caring for yourselves and caring for others. And this joy is what her real message was. And funnily enough, when she saw that and realized that she wasn't a blog, but she was proposing a lifestyle and joy through these things, right? That we were also able to launch an e-commerce store, because I do have the background for that. And her income doubled immediately. Her monthly income doubled immediately. And she's on track to 8 figures. So from 6 to 8, like with like that. But it sounds maybe crazy for people to think that, and it's against everything I think that they teach at typical business schools, right? Feel free to interrupt me anytime. And business school, because this is my favorite soapbox, because I love this about people. I love people to flourish. I love people to just feel like they're just, when they talk about in the flow, it's just, there's nothing holding you back. That to me is flow. There's nothing holding you back from being you. You're not apologizing. You're not toning it down. You're not afraid to explore those bits, even if they're uncomfortable. And the people who follow you, who buy your products, who listen to you, who work with you or whatever, are attracted to exactly that, right? And I think, Leslie, you say this all the time to your clients, I'm sure, because it's not a new concept, but it's a profound concept, and it's a big shift from the way business was taught years ago, right?
Yeah, so let me ask you a question. So
Sure.
In that moment when you realized your purpose, right, when you had your awakening moment, describe that experience so that we can recognize when we are experiencing awakening our infinite potential. What happened that had you realize, oh, it's really the merging of yourself in business and yourself on the personal side? What happened in that awakening moment that you had an epiphany and you knew that you were going to help people blend those things together for themselves?
Thank you. I had several, and I hope to have a lot more, right? Because life is long, and I'm just teasing. And who doesn't want an epiphany, right? They're fabulous.
The one that relates to what it is that you can help people find their purpose and their infinite potential.
Well, as I said, I looked I stepped back from all these labels and containers, right? And looked underneath. What was I really doing for these clients? Like, what did I really do? Whether they were a food service equipment company, whether they were the La Scala Opera Theater, whether they were a big fashion brand, what did I really do for them? And I'd always known myself as kind of like an idea machine or something. But when I really started looking more deeply, I realized that this real gift of understanding what a company or a person or that person's business can become, that is very holistic, and their unique place in the world and their unique way of showing up. I mean, there are tons of different fashion brands, right? So it's not like when somebody's made a pair of shoes, nobody else makes shoes, right? It's a like what kind of thing. The same thing with a coach or a graphic designer or whatever. Everybody has a unique skill set and life experience that brings them to see things in a certain way, to feel things in a certain way. And by understanding that, so my nature is that of a mentor and visionary. And if I move away from that, and I can give you the tactics, but if you get me to do the small day to day, then that just really starts to get me spinning my wheels. If somebody instead is I know another person who has another client who's extremely action oriented, and they don't love looking at the big strategy. And so by understanding that there's somebody who is almost like an engineering brain, and understands that that's their way of doing things, then they're great at creating systems. They're people who are great at creating programs and offers that really take people from point A to B to C to D, right? And teaching sort of skill sets and things like that. And when you understand that about yourself, you can even shift your direction. It could be business coaching, and then it could be life coaching. It could be some sort of nonprofit. It could be even physical products. There are so many aspects to ourselves, right? To each of us. And then I think that we should, I would tell people to look carefully at what they've done in the past and include the best of what they used to do. Because quite often we'll hear this, oh, I don't do that anymore. Now I do this, right? And people turn their back on their own lives, on their own experience. There was something when you took that job or took that client that led you to think it was a good idea. Sometimes it's only money, and that's okay. But because sometimes you do things for the money. But if there's something a little bit more than that, if you can find the common thread that kind of brings that all together, all of a sudden your life will start making a lot more sense. Because that's another thing I've found, that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that have 2 or 3 or 4 things that they love to do. And for them, it's very dispersive, and they don't understand how to bring it all together. And you can just watch people physically relax when you say, well, can you see that underneath this, maybe this is the common thread of how you show up and how you serve the world. Mm-hmm. And if you go into this, and for me, just knowing that I serve the world in a certain way and helping my clients see that allows them to be a little bit freer with their actual so-called business model or offers, whatever you want to call them.
So let me ask you, so once you figured out what your gift was, what were the first 2 steps you took? Because when we reach our infinite potential, or we have an epiphany, or we have a breakthrough moment, or an awakening, or an enlightening, there's a lot to do. But what were your first 1 or 2 steps that could be the same steps that those listening to you can begin with? So what were your first 2 steps?
They may be a little bit counterintuitive, but give yourself space and time to just allow yourself to feel what that feels like. Because if you've been considering yourself an accountant, and then all of a sudden you realize you're somebody who empowers people through helping them understand their numbers and money, and all of a sudden you're an empowerment, you work on personal empowerment and clarity, then all of a sudden that means something very different to you. So to kind of sit, just trust your intuition, trust yourself, trust your voice, and give yourself a little bit of space and time to figure out what that means. Now, you may not change your actual business. You may stay a web designer or a business coach, but I think that you'll find that your language will change. How you speak to your ideal client changes, because if I know something about myself and I know that to be happy and to feel fulfilled, I need to do a certain type of activity.
Right.
My ideal client is the person who needs to receive that. And so their need is fits together perfectly with what I have to offer, right? So all of a sudden, my language is deeper. It connects to them on a much deeper level, and that's where the real connection and the real selling without selling takes place, because you're not selling the service, you're selling what's underneath it, which is what they really need.
Got it. That is so awesome. So, Donna, thank you so much for sharing this information. I love the combination of, being your authentic self by being the same wherever you are, and to give yourself, so your advice then is give yourself some time and space to evaluate what is going on before you get into action, but then get into action. And Donna, tell us about your download and how this will help people move closer toward having their awakening of their infinite potential, please.
Oh, lovely. So the download is a tool that is simple and powerful, as all downloads should be. It should be short and sweet. Right. And it's really how to achieve any goal. Because I think quite often we edit our own goals before we even allow ourselves to want them, right? So what you really want, people will say 5 more clients or 6 figures, but that's not what you really want. You want to feel fulfilled. You want to feel, joyful. You want to feel that you are living a life of purpose. That I believe. I don't believe that. And the 6K, the 100K clients or the 6-figure clients, whatever your business desire is, those are a side effect, right? So these big goals that we have, quite often we think we don't know how to get there. And I have a beautiful, sweet, and short process to get you into the smallest thing that you can do to move yourself forward. Because if it's small, it can't be that scary, right? It's like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. And you do enough of those, and when you look back, all of a sudden you'll see that your business will be gaining momentum. Or even if it could even be that what you're really desiring is to create a foundation or a nonprofit thing. It doesn't always have to be a for-profit activity, right? But this how to achieve any goal will take you back to from the biggest vision down to the smallest thing that you can do. And there are all kinds of lists and little lists and suggestions as to tiny things, like how small can you make it? And it's the opposite of, right? It's almost counterintuitive, but it also allays a lot of our fears and our self-sabotage and resistance. So I hope everybody enjoys it.
I think that's awesome. And thank you so much for making that available to everyone. So we now are going to fade away from Donna Brown, who has been fantastic sharing her awakening and how she can help you. And she's given you this handout, a download that you can begin to work on right away, or you can reach her at coaching@donnabrown.com. And we appreciate your checking in on the Telesummit and listening to the amazing Donna Brown. And we can't wait to see you at the next presentation. Donna, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Leslie, and everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a joy and an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.